It is now time for Star Up, Star Down. It's your Cowboys report card on your home of your favorite football team. Sean Sharif alongside Cowboys insider Bobby Belt. Back off the plane from Charlotte. Choppy's out this week here on DFW Sports Station after the 30-14 win. Star Up is brought to you by Crown Royal, proud to be the official whiskey of the NFL.
Before we actually list what they are, I feel like when they've won games this season, I haven't had many star downs, and when they've lost games this season, I haven't had many star ups. This is the first game this year where I felt like I had a pretty decent amount of both that I could use. And so I don't know if you felt the same way, but I felt like there were definitely people in this game who I was not pleased with, and then others who I thought had really good performances.
Let's start off. Look, we know that Overshown was the young new storyline. Maris Leofau's taking that linebacker torch as a young gun. This is on the first drive. Leofau shines again, and welcome back Marshawn Nealon, who had the recovery to end that 12-play drive. RJ Ochoa tweeted out, the Cowboys defense has generated a turnover now in 7 straight games. They have tied the 2020 team for the longest streak in the last 5 years. Leofau had another pressure on third down, had a big tackle for loss on Chuba Hubbard. I think he kind of got away with another, what was a Leofau penalty, which we're talking about going high on players that happened against Cincinnati. But Micah Parsons said to the TV broadcast, Leofau so far along, Bobby, he could wear the green dot if needed. They could put the green communication dot on his helmet, and he would be good to go. Star up to the rookie.
Dude, and I believe that because I know...
Wait, is he a rookie?
Yes, he's a rookie.
Yeah, rookie.
I believe it because Leofau is a guy who... One of the things they really loved about him was he kind of had to do everything at Notre Dame. So there were times where Notre Dame would put him as a safety. They'd put him in the slot. They'd have him play linebacker. They'd have him rush. And so he had to understand everybody's assignment, everybody's responsibility, what was going on the field. And I think it's a Notre Dame kid. It's somebody who's pretty smart. And so what they found was that was one of the things they leaned into. They thought he played incredibly hard all the time. He plays with intensity. The motor's always running hot. And he's super sharp, super smart, high football IQ. There were just some things that he was going to have to work on in terms of his technique and other things like that where he was still a little raw. But he is one of these guys who I feel like he's progressively improved every single week. In fact, I know we had this stat on, I think it was Thursday or Friday. But if you look at now as the update, you've got about 12 guys that have played at least 150 snaps in run defense this year for the Cowboys. Just three of them have a better, like the Cowboys give up fewer yards per play on the run when they're on the field. It's Osa Odigizua. They give up about a third of a yard less when he's on the field. Mozzie Smith, they give up about a third of a yard less when he's on the field. And then it's Maris Leofau, who they give up 1.1 yards per rush fewer when he's on the field. He is a solid run, a really good run defender, somebody who's contributing to the team defense, and a lot of credit for a team that was rattled by Overshown being knocked out. The guy who had to actually step in and play for him and has been learning under him has been completely locked in and focused since he had to take the field for him.
Another star up to the man where it doesn't matter who's throwing him the football. He's going to flex on you. He's going to first down sniff on you, and he's going to have 1,000-yard seasons on you.
Snap is back on third down. Time. Throws it right corner of the end zone. Lamb, back shoulder. Touchdown, Cowboys. Oh, did C.D. Lamb run a nice route? That's the C.D. Lamb possession.
Yes. Well said by Brad Sham. That was his drive.
Yeah, and that was one where when you watch that's exactly what I thought was. Obviously, it was, the one where he had contributed the most. He had 3 catches on that drive, I think. I was trying to see how many yards it was. 28. He scored from 14. And then I think his first catch, or one of his next catches of the drive, he went for 20. So, I mean, you're talking about a basically 60-yard drive just from CD alone.
Well, the Cowboys on third down on that drive had 62 yards, and a lot of it was Lamb also doing it on third down.
Yeah, and look, I thought yesterday there were a lot of times where Cooper Rush, the stat line looks nice. I thought Cooper Rush was off target.
He had like 2 or 3 behind throws.
And even on some of the catches, I felt like
someone tweeted he's allergic to a front shoulder, leading you on the front shoulder.
He's got such a weak arm. He just doesn't. Yeah. He can't get it there. He tries his best to compensate, but I thought that was just you could tell on that drive, I think it was after the second catch, you could tell on the drive CD was just kind of like, yep, like keep going, just keep feeding me because I'm locked in and I'm ready to go. And it's 2 weeks in a row now where they've gotten him going early. It's quieted down in the second half, but I mean, he was fantastic on that drive and fantastic yesterday.
He had 8 for 105 in the first half on 10 targets, and Lamb was asked afterwards, do you feel like you need to put this team and offense on your back with 3 left?
I always had that mentality, and obviously offensively the guys are looking for me as a spark. So with that, I'm going to continue to do that, and I look at myself as a spark as well. I feel like I can personally score from anywhere on the field, no matter how deep. So with that being said, I want to be a threat every time I touch it.
I had a star up for the refs on Xavier Woods with that hit on Lamb, and we got away with one. Got away with a nice one right there. It should not have been a penalty on Carolina, but as the Tolo said, ball don't lie, because right after that, on the next possession, Cooper Rush had his customary weekly fumble. So CeeDee Lamb was tied into that play as well.
Yeah, there's a little bit, and I had made that point talking about Woods on Twitter yesterday, and a lot of people were like, that was a clean hit. That should. They were almost getting mad that Xavier Woods got flagged for that. But it was one of those things where he's Draymond Green to refs now. Xavier Woods is. We played the audio from him about a month ago, where after he had gotten hit with an unnecessary roughness penalty, they said, "Do you know how you lead the league in unnecessary roughness penalties since you got in the NFL in 2017?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've got 9." And he knew exactly what his count was. So that was 10 yesterday. He's one of these guys where if it looks close, they're flagging Woods.
I'm going to challenge you with a theory. I'm going to challenge you with hit you high. I would like to hit you high in illegally. My ref theory is in that moment, they're not knowing who they're throwing it on. It's too bang. It's not like a DN, right, who you know is kind of in that spot the entire time. It's a safety or secondary player moving around. So my theory is they didn't know it's Woods.
I think they're aware of the formation at the snap of the ball. And typically, I don't know what they're playing there, but I know Carolina plays a ton of single high, and that's going to be they're going to know anybody streaking from the back end is going to be Woods.
You think they're thinking about that much? Like Carolina's playing single high? I don't.
No, but I'm saying like they are aware of what the formation is because they have to observe if the formation's legal, and so they are aware of it. And I think that Woods is a guy who. That flag came in a little late. It wasn't like immediately thrown. It took a second. So they definitely saw who it was and I think went, all right, here you go.
Star up, star down, brought to you by Crown Royal here on Shan and Bobby.
Yeah, I've got a star up in this one for Jordan Lewis, who continues to be, I made the comparison a few weeks back. He's going to be this generation's Dat win in terms of just the undersized, scrappy third-round pick who you look up and you're like, man, he's been here for a decade and he's just been pretty solid the whole time and been a really strong leader. And continues to make big plays whenever he's called on. There's no reason, if you look at Jordan Lewis, that he necessarily should have hung around this long. He's not a super fast guy. He's short. He's thinly built. And he's had injury issues. And he still is playing really well as he's gotten older.
Young in the gun. Back on third down. Quick pass. Broken up and intercepted by Kendrick. On a deflection at the 50-yard line.
He tipped it for Kendricks to get the pick. I tweeted yesterday, James Conner might be my favorite player in the NFL. That's how I feel about Jordan Lewis for the Cowboys defense. Just gritty, gutty, tough, always just kind of like making the right plays, the feel-good plays. I'm always like, all right, star up. If you had 11 of these guys, you had 10 of these guys, one of those guys. That's how I feel about Jordan Lewis. You get 8 more of these guys or 5 more of these guys with the personality, the mentality, the approach, and you're gonna win big.
Yeah, and you can make a...
And he had the great Travis Hunter girlfriend tweet that I was too scared to say, which we'll get into later.
Oh, I didn't even see it. You can make the comment, or you can make the argument, I think, that's... Micah obviously is the best player on the defense. They've had different guys here and there. Jordan Lewis is their leader on defense. And he's somebody who, you remember, he was the one who really early on, I think it was after the Baltimore game, called them out harder than anybody else, where he was just clearly pissed off in the locker talking about, we don't do details well. We've never done details well. And he called them out. And last night he gave them credit at his locker and said, hey, this is something that we've really improved. Our guys deserve a lot of credit because I was critical of this early in the years, that we didn't do these things well, and we're much more detail-oriented on the defensive side of the ball.
There are many Cowboy fans, and I heard Brad Sham in the postgame kind of hint towards this. We may be seeing his final 3 games here, so enjoy it.
With a receiver in motion, back to throw, looking left, Late pressure.
Ball's out.
He is sacked at the 32-yard line.
The Cowboys
and
got
the
it.
Cowboys got a fumble.
Osa Odigizua. I can't remember the last time I've been this excited about a defensive tackle that they developed. This is the first play of the third quarter. First play. So any thought, we know how horrible the Cowboys have been after halftime. Any thought of Carolina going down, getting back in this ball game, or doing damage, gone. Just like that. Osa recovers, ball on the Carolina 29. That would lead to the Jalen Tolbert touchdown to make it 17-7. And then Osa had a sack. I just played that, because his name was going to go ahead and be in it. But he obviously did more with the sack than the fumble recovery. That's more luck. But Osa Odigizua, someone the Cowboy fans are already tearfully preparing for the goodbye.
Yeah, just because it's something where I think Dallas would love to keep him. I think Osa would love to be here. I think Osa likes being a Cowboy. But the reality is we talked about it last week, and
he's 26.
Yeah, I know, and he is such a gym warrior. He plays with a ton of effort. That's actually been a criticism for a few people over the first couple years of his career, is that he plays so hard and so intense that he tends to, by December, he's worn down.
Yeah.
And that's not happening this year. This year, everything has kind of flipped for him. You talk about since November 10th, he's got 3.5 of his 4 sacks. He has 15 of his 22 quarterback hits. Like, he's playing really, really well. And the other thing, we mentioned a second ago, their run defense is worse when he's off the field. You think, okay, big deal. So what's that matter? We're talking about a guy whose job is to get upfield, to rush the passers, the 3 technique, and he's contributing the run defense. He had a couple different run stops yesterday that were big, and that's as a guy whose primary job is not to stop the run. It's to get upfield and get after the quarterback. He was really, really good yesterday, and this is the best he's ever played in the second half of the season. It's not even close.
I have literally no evidence to back this up, but it feels like every play that ever goes like that ends poorly for my team. When you overrun the quarterback, like, you've clearly got a beat on him. You've destroyed your person. You're going to get the sack, and then you overrun, overpursue, however you want to describe it. It feels like that play almost always ends poorly, but instead, you got probably a better result. Now, I don't know if Micah would have hit him and knocked the ball out either way, but you got a better result out of that, and that set the tone for what was a turnover palooza for the Panthers and Bryce Young.
That turned it all around for the Cowboys offensively too, right?
It did.
Because that was after the Cooper Rush fumble, and from there on, it seemed like they got their S together.
Well,
right?
I think that one, because he had another one, was before the fumble that made it 10-7.
Okay.
One play later, and then we can dive into that. I kind of thought we were going to lose after that, because that play felt like you were going to make it 17-0 or at least 13-0, and Carolina hadn't done jack S on offense.
It felt like the whole season.
Yeah.
In one play.
That's a good point.
It was as this year as you can get with this season is exactly like that. You're going there, you're doing these things right, and then you just shoot yourself in the foot in the biggest place.
He's
Good
right.
news is you gave the ball back to Spud Webb.
Man, and they convert, but on that one play, they converted it. And you know what? I was like 5 to 7 minutes behind. I accidentally fast-forwarded it too much out of the commercial break, and then I just saw the flash up there that said touchdown, and I was like, what the hell? And so, of course, I rewound, hoping somehow, some way, Corey, I realized this is a weird personality tick, that they wouldn't score a touchdown now that I'd gone back to rewatch it at normal speed. But they definitely still scored a touchdown because we got confused on what coverage is what. And at that point, I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah, I got thrown off, and I'm going to be very honest, guys. During the game, I went shopping.
What the hell?
I went Christmas shopping during the game.
I rode.
What?
Oh, wow. I rode the Peloton bike. I got bored with about 3 minutes left till halftime. And I was like, let me turn it on. I was like, let me go get exercise in. Like, I feel really lazy sitting on the couch watching this. And I got in 20 minutes on the Peloton before halftime, and I got on the bike with less than 3 minutes to go till half. That's how long.
That first quarter flew by, but you're right. The end of that second
couldn't
quarter.
believe it. I remember going,
crap.
I rode the bike for, it was like 20 minutes and 38 seconds. And I got on the bike close to the 2-minute warning.
Okay.
And that was when I was at the store, Kevin, I was doing my thing. I had my earbuds in, listening to Brad Sham.
Did you grab some milk? And you're like, son of a
Well,
bitch.
it was a grocery. It was Christmas shopping. But I did throw a bottle of cologne. Yeah, at a mall. I went to a mall. Yeah.
Was it crowded?
So I went there specifically to go to a specific store that I went to last year to get some stuff for y'all. And that store's closed. So I am now having to redo all of the stuff that I wanted to get for y'all. Yeah,
what
Frederick
the
from
hell?
Hollywood.
This is not Elf.
So what ended up happening was I was like standing there listening, and I had to take an earbud out for a second so I could communicate with a human. And then it's not typical. You usually do it on Amazon.
Right.
And then whenever I put my earbuds back in, like the score had turned. And it was just like that kind of a tie had happened so quickly.
Okay, I'm actually glad that all three of y'all said that to a certain extent, because my question was going to be, were you as invested as usual? Because it's true. The Cowboys dominated. I think they dominated over a bad team. Now, it's true. You were an underdog in that game. I think you dominated against a bad team. But I have to admit, it just didn't feel the same, especially when they continue to go back to, if the Cowboys would have beat the Bengals, they could have been 7-7. I was like, no, yeah, I hear you, man.
That part hurts.
But we didn't, Greg Olson. And so you're 6-8, and that's great. You won the game and all that good stuff. But I have to admit, and I wonder if other Cowboys fans are like this, I wasn't as invested going through it. Because, if you lost, better draft pick. If you won, I'm glad you won, but it makes no difference.
I got home just after halftime. So I got home, and when I turned on the TV, I turned it onto Red Zone, and I put the Cowboys on the laptop. And then I wrapped some presents. So, Kevin, my interest level, not wrapped like that, not like that. My interest level was down all weekend going into it, just because it's been a brutal season already.
Yes.
I didn't think I was going to watch great football with Carolina on the field.
I didn't know what time the game started at.
Oh, no.
So
when we do our thing, and I'm like, hey, pregame starts at 9, kickoff.
I'm sorry. That's the interest I have in the Cowboys as this season has progressed. I obviously figured it out at 10:30 in the morning. I was like, let me click on the television because I'm like, this feels like a noon start. This Cowboys
and it's not
Panthers
the number one game. Yeah.
Feels like noon, and so
like
you hit the YouTube and you hit live, and I went down and saw on channel 4. It's like, all right, game's at noon. I'm like, okay, so the game's at noon.
And you got the requisite. I like Greg Olson a lot, but you got the.
I think he is very good.
You got the not number one crew for what felt like a not number one game. You could look in the stands, and your fans were like, yeah, either way.
That was amazing to me. I know this is maybe NFL, but also Cowboys. I have on YouTube, I actually went to the dual channel so I could watch Kansas City, Cleveland, and Dallas, Carolina at the same time. And both stadiums were at best, and I mean at best, 70% full. And I was like, wow, I guess a Cowboy game, they're playing in Carolina. I can't remember. Did they play in Carolina last year? We played the little guy last year too, right? We played Bryce Young last year, right? I think we played the little guy.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And so I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it was just, but I was like, wow, I know there's a lot of Cowboy fans in that area, and they're just like, I don't care to go. And then obviously Panther fans, few and far between for a while now. And then Cleveland gets the back-to-back Super Bowl champs. Patrick Mahomes is healthy going into that game, and there was 30% empty seats in that building. And by the time you got 10 minutes left in both games, at best, both stadiums were 50% full, and that's at best.
Yeah, so that was where my interest level was for the day, Kevin.
Okay,
I went back and perused through the game, watched the big points of it, but was just like, I'm seeing what I expected from this Cowboys team against this team, right? Like there was nothing that I didn't expect from the Cowboys against Carolina.
Will it change at all? My guess is probably not really, but will it change at all? Sunday night, you're going to play a better Tampa team, or in the last game of the season, if you could potentially knock out the Commanders. I realize once the Saints couldn't convert on their 2-point conversion, that felt unlikely, but for some reason you could knock the Commanders out. Do you think that will stoke more interest, or do you think you're like, hey, our team's not making the playoffs either way, so
You're watching, I'll tell you this. I get a chance to watch Mike Evans. And that's one of those dudes right there that I'm going to take interest in for the remainder of his career. Mike said it multiple times. It's that is a dude right there that you're just like, has he gone underappreciated most of his career?
Sure.
And he has. So I will continue to do that. And Kevin, as long as we got 1% chance, as long as there's 1% chance and we keep starting Cooper Rush,
Feels high.
then it feels like everything that we're trying to pursue here is to get back to that Super Bowl. So I think that's what it is, Kevin, is it might be a late run, a late push. It might be difficult to get past, I don't know, the Seahawks or whoever else, the Commanders. It might be difficult.
I don't know. I saw that Sunday night game. It might not be too hard to get past the Seahawks.
We could do it, though.
All right.
Maybe.
This is apparently you guys are in the majority. It really feels like. From the 817, yeah, my family kicked me out of the YouTube TV because so many people were using it around the beginning of the second quarter. I didn't care to get back on in the game. I took my sons to go see Gladiator 2 and skip the Cowboys game. It was great. Yeah, shopping, gym, and lunch during the Cowboys game so that I could be ready for the 2 big-time games at 3:25. And make no mistake about it, like the focus of the NFL world was on those 2 games at 3:25. No, I don't think any of the focus on the entire NFL world was on this Dallas Carolina game, but you do see a lot of people are like, "Hey, they won, that's cool." But I wasn't I wasn't there. I wasn't really locked in for this game.
Were you? You were?
Mingo showed them though, huh? They made a mistake trading Mingo away from that team.
So you know what I thought at one point, Mike, in our group text, you were like, "We really should put." I believe what you said was we really should put bingo in the game.
Yeah.
And at that point,
That's
I was like,
intentional.
I wanted to text you back, but I was behind. And I was like, but Mike, he is in the game.
Oh.
That was the concerning part. There are times when he is in the game and you
just
don't know
he's there.
that he's in the game because they don't even target him. And that
was once Mozzie Smith.
Yeah, man. Oh.
And do you feel right now, though, that Mozzie Smith is a better player than you thought he was at the beginning of the season?
At the beginning of the season, for sure. Up to where you want him to be. Still not really close. But he did come. He was adjacent to a huge play. And I was like, oh, hey, Mozzie Smith was right there. He might have been able to make that
one
play.
Where he threw somebody on the ground that was nice. That was a nice play to see. Osa just continuing to be
he was phenomenal
force on the field, and that's sad because the Cowboys won't end up paying him either. So that's a sad thing to move on from. But yeah, there were some things that did capture your eye for sure about this game.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But
everything comes with a caveat. That's the only.
You played a crap team.
Yeah, that's the thing that stinks about it is while you're going through it and you're like, oh, you kind of got excited against the Bengals, knowing, hey, this. I know what that offense is, and I know what our defense did to them to slow them just a little bit. But the offense really couldn't keep up with it either, and then there was a play at the end of the game that turned that around. So you're like, oh, man, is there a level of excitement to go? I think this was my letdown week, Kevin, was after that kind of a loss. It was that deflated me enough.
We wondered if the Cowboys were going to quit. I saw that text again and again and again. Are the Cowboys going to show up? Are they going to quit? Are they going to this, that, the other? Going back a couple weeks, I had the Cowboys at 6 wins. I thought they would beat the Panthers and the Giants because those teams are not good. And then they would win one other rando game that we didn't expect. And that ended up being the Commanders game. And so here they are at 6 wins.
With plenty of time left in the season.
Kid Cowboy 66 on YouTube says, yes, Mike, Mingo did a great job blocking, 160 yards rushing. Maybe he did. I don't know.
I get it, but nobody's trading their 4th round pick for a blocking wide receiver. That's not. But I get it. He's under contract for 2 more years.
I wonder. This is where I don't know because I don't know Kid Cowboy 66. I don't know if he's being sarcastic or he's like, no, he did a great job blocking, and maybe he did. I don't know.
That is possible. I have to admit,
I don't know.
I've not been locked in on our wide receivers' blocking skills.
Blocking's important in this game. Hey, it's since the blocking has gotten better at the wide receiver position. That is a reality, and that is one of the things that the Cowboys said they wanted out of Mingo was that he's a more physical blocker. Since that's happened, Rico Dowdle's been a better runner. So continue blocking.
Kid Cowboy
for him.
said real. He's being for real.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and that's fine, but that's not what you traded a 4th round pick for. is so you could beef up the blocking on your wide receiving
Yeah, it
core.
is. If you want to be a run-first team.
No, it's not.
I want to be a run-first team now, Kevin. I want to run the damn
Then
ball.
why would you trade for a running back?
Because I have one. He's doing great. He had 140-some yards.
Well, you don't have another running back because they don't want to play
I only
Deuce
need
Vaughn.
one.
And they only put Ezekiel Elliott in the game, and they're like, this game's over.
I only need one.
Okay, great.
And plus, hey, when I have Zeke,
Are you
man,
saying Zeke's the human cigar?
he's
a little bit.
and he can block, man.
A little bit.
The power he
He is
has.
a little bit.
The power.
I also want to talk quite a bit about Rico over the last 3 games, tweets Nick Harris. He's leading the NFL in rushing yards at 392, yards after contact, 283. So it's not just, well, it's bad tackling and bad defenses, but it's not easy to do this kind of thing. How about missed tackles forced? Leads that, 16 of them. And carries of 10-plus yards over the last 3 games, now has 14 of those. All it takes is a couple good ones, and we got those couple good ones now was the quote. For me now, this just clarifies further that, especially going into next year, if you're not going to spend money, we don't need to start the odometer on a day 1 or day 2 pick. I'm thinking round 5 at the earliest for our running back. Brian, what would you think about that?
Round 5.
Mm-hmm. And we just need a complimentary guy.
Yeah.
I don't need a workhorse.
Well, that's assuming you have Rico, who's a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Is he
yeah.
another guy that's pricing himself out?
So is he playing himself to a big contract
Well,
here?
maybe-
I don't know.
I know-
I wonder what his market's going to look like.
I think it was over the cap, had him somewhere in the $5 million range.
And last year, Zach Moss went for what, 2? And they
Yeah.
said that was too expensive.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think around $5 million to have
Fair.
the guarantee of productivity, considering how bad it can get. You know, I think he is that replacement level running back that you think about we're going to get for a bargain compared to the rest of the league stars that are now $15 to $18 million for a top running back. You know, this guy will give you maybe 85 or 90% of the production for a fraction of the cost. And I think, it is at the very minimum giving you the blessing of not having to have a high priority on running back going into the offseason as long as, you can keep him. But, dude, if he does this again 3 more times, against this level of defense, then maybe the number climbs significantly. I think there's lack of the home run. Chief,
Yeah,
for sure. That is will keep him out of that Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley zone.
Yeah, he's not a game breaker kind of back, but he's a physical back, that's for sure. I mean, the physicality that was on display yesterday, where he's just consistently getting the ball and running through people, like all that stuff, the yards after contact, the forced missed tackles, all that stuff, super impressive with him. But I don't think he'll break the bank. Devin Singletary is a number, like 3 years, $16.5 million is what he got from the Giants. So roughly $5 million a year, just a touch over, and it was $9.5 million guaranteed. I could see something in that neighborhood. That'll be probably his market.
Yeah, and then it gets to, should we just try to go super cheap 1 more year and then spend a 2 in the 2026 draft? Would that be a better strategy?
No, this is the year. You take your back this year based on what this draft class looks like at running back. This is the year to find your guy.
I've seen 3 so far.
You got a lot of talent.
Yeah, Ohio
talent.
State has a couple of kids that people were. I was talking to some scouts
Hampton,
about.
North Carolina's a good back.
Hampton's a really good back.
Obviously, we've talked plenty
Yeah.
about Jenny. Yeah, Iowa with Johnson's good.
Yeah.
This is the year to go ahead and get your guy, and you can make an argument. You got to have a capable runner with this offense, and with uncertainty at quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean, running back. You could say for the Cowboys, when they've had their best years at 16, 14, I get everything with the value. This team's got to have a guy that they can give 20 to 25 times the ball to and rely on. And for whatever reason, it took them forever to give it to Rico, and that stinks. But they've got to have somebody that they can trust in the backfield.
Yeah, well, and with what Steven said last week, I think we do have to consider that maybe $4 or $5 million would still be too much for them. If they're going to have to punt on all their free agents, then he would definitely apply. But they might look at it as guaranteed production at an inexpensive position. You're getting a legitimate starter for, really not much. 2% of the cap? Maybe under 2% of the cap. Okay, Cowboys defensive end Micah Parsons, edge Micah Parsons. What do we call him when asked on NFL Network about the report that the Cowboys have not ruled out trading him? Put in a lot of work. He understands it's a business, and if sides can't agree to those type of things, it happens. But I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to keep playing. But ain't really going to make a difference. Micah's going to play hard, So he's taking a very professional approach to it. Stephen Jones denied that report, but I think that's what you would do publicly. I think privately, maybe sniffing around or, somebody's talking to an agent. And I think that's the right way to do it. Like behind closed doors, do we want to trade Micah Parsons? No. He made us the highest sack totals in the NFL since his return. And during his outage, Wolchuk said it, I believe in crosstalk, they were the worst pass rush in all of the NFL.
Yes, they were.
So from worst to best, and I remember vividly 2014 and 2016 when a young tank was like their best option, and at rushing the passer, and how that killed you late in those games because you couldn't stop the other team from passing the ball down the field, and it was just a feeling of hopelessness. So if you have any plans on contending, but man, contention might not be until 2026, 2027. Do you want to use up Micah's prime on teams that are struggling to make the playoffs? Or, what I want to know is it 3 1s from somebody? Is it 2 2s and 2 2s or 2 1s and 2 2s? Like, how ridiculous can it be? I'm open-minded. Is there a team out there with extra draft capital that thinks they are a Micah Parsons away from being an elite defender, and they're willing to give you, a Ricky Williams type of haul? Or, with the Niners traded for Trey Lance, right? We're a quarterback away. We're moving all these picks. I think it's there, especially if that team has legitimate cap space and they have another edge who's, not in their long-term plans. So that would be my approach. Do I want to trade Micah? No. Do I think he's improving his performance, his consistency, and his leadership and maturity? Absolutely. Maybe he will actually become a really good, team leader here in the next couple of years. But you can't be so inclined. Now, here's what makes it somewhat realistic to me, guys. Micah's not marketable as of yet. He's a great player. He's going to get you TV ratings. He's selling some jerseys, but something just doesn't connect with him like it does with a Dak or, some of the other stars around the league. So I wonder what the Cowboys Q rating says. The Q rating on TV, like how's the public look at you? Right. Do they want to buy your goods? Are they drawn to you? Or are they like, whatever, he's a great player, but I just don't mess with him, And if that's the case, maybe this could be the rare example of, the Cowboys. Have they ever traded a player in his prime other than Herschel Walker?
Not that I can think of.
Well, that wouldn't be his prime. When to trade, they just let DeMarcus Ware go.
Yeah.
But
cap casualty.
Cap casualty there. Can I ask a question? When you talk about marketability, is there ever been an edge that's a marketable player?
TJ Watt, JJ Watt. The Watts certainly seem to.
But Watt, I can understand. I can understand JJ Watt, but is his more now because of being retired than being like when he was playing?
No, I think he's one of the ones.
They were Subway sandwich family and all that stuff like that, but I don't remember these Dak and these quarterbacks, even Mahomes, they line up this stuff. But I don't know
think Khalil Mack was really getting a ton of stuff.
Okay, so D Ware
Garrett right now.
D Ware did Pepsi, he did Old Spice, he did Reebok and Campbell's Chunky Soup and USAA. Obviously his smile, his personality was significantly different than
and somebody texted Strahan, like Michael Strahan I think he was a Chunky Soup guy.
Yeah.
Strahan definitely had some marketability to him in New York.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yes, you don't have. It's got to be different for an edge. You've got to be an absolute stud.
Yeah.
So where are you guys with it? Do you think it could happen? Would you still do it?
I don't think it's happening. I don't think the Cowboys are trading Micah Parsons. I've never felt that way. They're not going to allow a player of that pedigree to go somewhere else. Team building wise, I still think this team has a ton of holes, and they don't have enough. If the draft is the only way that they're going to improve, they do not have enough picks, and they don't have enough premium picks to do it. So for that reason, I'd 100% take some phone calls. But it's so hard to find that type of player that can wreck a game at that position in the way that he can, to punt on that, man. And look, I've heard, we've talked about it, all the stuff that comes with him, and is he putting in extra effort in the film study? Does he want to do that? The moodiness, does he rub people the wrong way? I do think he's taken great strides this year with maturity. And I don't think that's a player they're letting out of the Cowboys. I think he's staying.
Nobody has multiple first-round picks in this year's draft, so that's of note.
But they all have everybody has their picks.
The Bills have multiple twos. Okay. Pay him now, says the 214. Trade him to the Browns for their 6th, says a different 214. If Micah leaves, you have at least 2 more holes to fill when he leaves. Yeah, I think this is maybe the most dominant defensive player since D. Ware in the late 2000s for this football team. As far
without
as
question,
when it comes to, and you have the chance that if you can fill your other spots to put an elite defense out there, if you're really serious about winning the Super Bowl, defense wins championships. Big believer in that.